Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Well, I think I figured out why God allowed hurricanes in our life, at least for our family. Hey, everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. I don't know about you, but that last week, depending on when you're listening to this, that week of the hurricane and the days following after seemed like some of the most bizarre, emotional, crazy days ever. I think it was also a full moon, if I recall. It was the craziest things happened. I felt like the world was falling apart. Our website was shut down randomly. We had someone start their first day and then leave 24 hours later. They quit in 24 hours, which we've never had. There were so many crazy things happening. People get crazy emotional with storms like that in general, and kids being out of school. I don't know. Maybe you felt it, maybe not. It just seemed like everything was falling apart at once. It was absolutely crazy. Whew. I am glad to be through that week, but there was a silver lining in it, and that's really the theme of this podcast. And I'm not trying to make light of the hurricane at all. Obviously, I want to be upfront with that. My brother Luke and his pregnant wife. Now, if you guys don't know, Luke and Lindsay are expecting a baby here in early February. So she's pregnant. They are homeless and kind of just moving around like vagabonds right now. All their stuff is in a massive storage unit, and they're getting stuff as they need it, and having to move because of the storm and getting a new house. So there's exciting stuff, but also it's stressful. I can only imagine it's just not fun living out of a suitcase and having to crash at parents' house and my house and old condo, etc. So they're dealing with that just like a lot of people are. And I'll go back to kind of highlight last week's podcast. If you're just tuning into this one, the prior one, it was right before the hurricane was about to hit, and we were leaving to go to Georgia. Was our decision. So it was the kids' fall break. So we had all these big plans to go to River Ranch. River Ranch is kind of like a theme park for rednecks, if you will. They have a big rodeo and mud buggies and fishing, and it's a blast. We can go there with quite a few other families. That we all get places next to each other there. And it's just such a fun time for everyone, for the kids, the adults. And of course, that got canceled because of the hurricane, because River Ranch is right in the middle of Florida, right where the eye of Milton went over. And so we now knew that we weren't going to be able to go to River Ranch, and we had a hurricane that was supposed to be coming right through Winter Haven. So we said, you know what? Let's go up to the farmhouse in Georgia and just get away this time, because for Ian here, at least in Winter Haven, that was a pretty severe storm. If any of you guys kind of remember that, if you're in Central Florida area, I mean, it hit Winter Haven hard, and I mean hard. Like took roofs off, took our office roof off. Literally, I mean, flooded the whole place, destroyed it. We had to literally gut the entire office, that literally lifted the roof off. And we were out of power for 7 days. So any of you who were out of power for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or more, I know there's some people in Tampa that made it even past 7 days. It's so brutal. And, 1 or 2 days, not that bad, in my opinion. 7 days, by then you feel like you're pulling your hair out, and we take our power for granted. I will say that. So anyhow, we just had all these bad memories about Ian. And so we said, you know what, let's just go to the farmhouse, get away. It's the kids' fall break. Let's let them at least enjoy it. We're not having to sit there and clean up and be out of power for the whole time. Let's go make the best of it. So all that being said, we went up to Georgia, where my wife's family's had a farmhouse there since 1880, I believe it is. And it's a really, really cool little property. We got a couple little ponds on it with bass, and there's deer walking around, and an old school farmhouse. I'm talking like originally was built in 1880s, and there's been some areas added on, and a couple areas have burnt down over the years. And it's a really, really just unique and a special place. No Wi-Fi, and here's kind of where I'm going with all this. So we get up there, and let me tell you, they had just experienced, Helene had gone through that part of Georgia, and it sucked every bit of humidity out of the air. And so we were waking up, and it was, right at 60 degrees, 62 degrees. It just felt so good. And it was perfectly sunny. There wasn't a cloud in the sky the whole time we were there. And, our daughter, Shauna, she just turned 13 this past summer. And for those of you that have teenagers or have had teenagers, like something just kind of switches when they become a teenager, meaning you are no longer cool. You are no longer the dad they want to come hang out with. And, we called her Shauna the nature girl. And I just felt like something has kind of changed where, she wants to keep her door shut and or locked more often than not. Obviously, we run a pretty strict house, and we remind her very often that it is our house, not hers. And all that being said, we still want to respect boundaries and just understand that, that is how teenagers are wired. That's how I was wired, and my wife was wired, et cetera. So we also respect that part of it. But we hadn't really had like a good bonding moment with Shauna. A lot of it because she's getting in that realm where she hates us, mostly because we won't give her a phone at 13. So she's the only kid in her class without her own phone. And she does have an Apple Watch, so she can at least text, because I know that is important for the kids. But we just don't want her to be on a phone. We don't want her to be on social media right now. That time will come. It's inevitable, but that was the decision we made. So all that to say, we've just had a lot of bumping of the heads, if you will, and some disagreements. And when we were there at the farmhouse, though, without the distractions, without Wi-Fi, and there's no TV there, it's just you play board games at night, and in the daytime you're out exploring and hiking. And let me tell you, because that we had made that choice to go up there versus the River Ranch, where we probably wouldn't have seen her. Those age kids kind of go off and do their thing. The young kids kind of stay around closer to the cabins, and the parents, playing bocce ball and horseback riding and stuff like that. Anyhow, we don't spend that much time with the kids. It's the parents hanging out with the parents, et cetera. So it's just our family up there at the farmhouse, which is also rare. Normally we're up there with my wife's brothers or parents. It was just us. And we had the most amazing special time over and over again from some hikes that we did, and just got to talk, to going out and just kicking the soccer ball around. And they have an old flat top court that's pretty beat up, but we played tennis and pickleball, and just played 80s music, and we're dancing out there, just having the literally felt like just young kids. And I after it happened, I told my wife, I was like, that was one of the most special moments I've ever had with Shauna, and really just the whole family. We just kind of felt free. It was I don't know. It was one of those moments, and if you weren't there and didn't experience it, maybe you didn't have the same kind of high I did around it. But maybe you do have something similar where you were out in just nature, and all of a sudden you had that bonding moment with maybe someone you had struggle connecting with, or a kid, or a family member who was butting heads with you, and it was just like all that went away. And I don't know, it just reminded me, like, man, God is so awesome. Literally put us there in that exact spot. That was not in the plans. We were actually ticked off that we had to drive, and you can only imagine having to, all the other people evacuating from the Tampa area going north. It took forever. I mean, it took what normally would have been a 6-hour, 5.5-hour drive. It was 8.5, 9. That drive up there was brutal. And so the whole time we're like, man, did we make a mistake? We should have just stayed back in Winter Haven. This stinks. Whereas we're sitting there on 75 going north and back-to-back traffic. And I'm telling you, it is just wild how God works. And I've talked about this multiple times, that the power of the outdoors, right? That he basically evacuated us, if you will, to a place that purposely had no Wi-Fi, and the only thing you could do on a beautiful day was to be outside with your family. And I'm telling you, it was one of those magical moments that I wouldn't give it up for anything. I didn't even care so much about what was going on back at the house with the hurricane and the office. It was just a really, really special bonding time, not just with Shauna, but with all of us. We absolutely had a blast. And it wasn't just one day. We did it again the next day. And Shauna was getting excited. It's like, hey, let's go outside, which is, used to be her. Like, that was Shauna the nature girl. If any of you guys have been following me for a long time, that's kind of just been part of Shauna's DNA, and it's still there, obviously. But I think as she's gotten older, and a lot of 13-year-old girls aren't into nature and going out and finding snakes and lizards and stuff like that. She shifted a little bit, and I get it. It's part of life. We're not ever going to force her to do something that she doesn't feel like doing at the time. But yeah, it was neat to see that part come out again, and really just, I don't know, just kind of made my day, if you will. And then of course things got worse, or bad, because we had to head back at some point, right? So we stayed at the farmhouse for 4 nights, 4 nights, 5 days. So we had just an absolute blast. It was perfect weather, and we finally came back. The storm had passed, been a couple of days. We lost power for 3 days, so we kind of waited that out. We were waiting to hear back from our neighbors when power was restored. We weren't dying to leave a place that we were having just a dynamic time with AC and beautiful weather, to go back to a place that was going to be a hot mess with no power. So as soon as power got on, we packed up our bags and drove back down. And of course, the house was a mess. We had one window that got busted out, and some little bit of water damage from that one window. And we have 3.5 acres that we live on in Winter Haven, which is awesome. It's also awesome to have about 60 adult trees, literally. I mean, and a combination of magnolias that line the driveway, to, I don't know, 15 of them are probably, southern live oaks, big oak trees, some big cypress trees in the back on the lakeside. And you could not see our grass. Like, there was that much stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. And we had one massive, beautiful tree that got completely uprooted. And I cannot tell you how painful it is, one, to see just one of your beautiful, still healthy trees. It just had so much moss. The whole thing just tipped over. It was right there exposed. As I talked about earlier, the power of having trees together. This one was off by itself, and it completely tipped over. And it kills me to have to pay. It was like $3,000 to have that tree all cut up and taken away, because it was a pretty big one. It kills me to have to pay. One, I don't like having to spend $3,000 on a tree, but two, to see a beautiful one that you like have to be cut down and chopped up and taken away. But all that being said, it was still worth it when I look back at that time. And then when the next day we all woke up early, so we kind of just took a breather, and it was a long day of travel, and unpacked our bags. And the next day, all right, we're waking up early. It's 6 to 7, and we're just going to, start hitting this yard before it gets too hot. And that was another one. The whole family came out. Shauna was out there, Savannah, Jackson, and we're all helping out in our own different ways. And that was another one. We had music blasting, and maybe that's another powerful piece. And a lot of these things, we're playing pickleball and tennis and soccer. We had just fun 80s music blasting. We're all just dancing, and just, I don't know, something about good music just gets you smiling. And even then, with the storm, and as the day started heating up, we were still just having fun. It was just a fun bonding experience. So I don't know if it was like that for you, or if maybe you didn't see the silver lining in it, but for us, I know specifically that we were very, very upset that, our big fall break, that we literally had planned this a year ago. So it was with 10 other families. It was a big deal, something that we do every year that got canceled because of hurricanes. We're already kind of bummed about that. We're obviously bummed about a hurricane and, the damage that it caused to our house and our property. But man, that silver lining of uniting our family together through it, that was it. I mean, it was almost like, and I believe I mentioned, I might have to go back and listen to the old podcast, but in the last podcast, I was I was asking, like, why the heck if God's great, why does he even allow hurricanes? And one of my hypotheses was maybe he's just asking us to slow down. And that's what it did to us. It helped us slow down. It helped us to get out of the busy life that we have and the craziness with running Salt Strong, my wife's practice, and always being attached to the internet and Wi-Fi. And I'm telling you, it was so nice to get away. And I've shared before too the power of nature. And even when I get some of my big questions answered, and I'll sometimes see like a deer or a certain type of bird. It's very odd when I'm out there just kind of praying by myself. And multiple times while I was at the farmhouse, just taking a walk and praying about certain things, all of a sudden a deer would just come right through like my path. Like, even had one when I was in the car. I was driving back, getting some supplies that we needed in Dublin, Georgia, and I'm going around this turn. And a whole family of deer sitting right there, like in the road. Had to stop for them and let them go by. I don't know. It's just those little special moments. Something cool about it. So I know. Looking back, it was there was certainly some parts that weren't fun. And once again, I know I'm speaking for everyone. No one likes to be in a hurricane or even remotely associated with it. But there were some really neat silver linings that God opened my eyes up to, and that time that we had. Just with Shauna, which we hadn't really experienced this year, honestly. We hadn't really had a moment like that. And it is tough, especially that first teenage year. They're trying to figure things out. And, it's I can only imagine how tough it is, because I know it was tough for me just trying to figure out life and figure out, your relationship with your parents, and why do they hate me, and why won't they let me do all the cool stuff that some other kids are getting to do. It was just a really, really special bonding moment that I wouldn't give up for anything. So for me, that was the silver lining in this storm. It got us away. It got us focused on family. It got us focused on God and nature. And for that, I am grateful. So I hope you can find some gratitude in this storm, regardless if you were involved in it or not. I know I got listeners from all over the place, but I think with any storm in life, right? That hurricane is not going to be the last thing that comes into our lives, regardless if it's a literally act of God storm, or if it's just a different type of storm or bad thing happen. And there's usually always some silver lining if we're willing to look for it. So that's my challenge to you when things seem like they're getting tough, or you have weeks like last week in this crazy full moon where everything seems to be going just bonkers. Take a breather. Get outside and try to find that silver lining. If you guys have any similar stories, I'd love to hear from them. I'd love to hear from you on them. Joe@saltstrong.com. Otherwise, I will talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my